Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. First off, this video is sponsored by EA, so shout out to them for supporting the channel. Also for letting me get early access to this, because this is honestly my first time ever really investing into a mobile game, ever really in my life. So what I'm gonna highlight on screen really quick is, one, you can see the dropship here, and then two, I want to showcase the fact that my phone is not necessarily the most impressive phone at all. It's an iPhone SE, and how well this actually runs. I know this is really blown up and stretched so you can see it. I was recording via my iPhone, probably not the most elegant way to record footage, but nonetheless is how I managed to do it, which is really impressive because the footage came out around 47.5 frames per second. And honestly, because the screen is so small, I'm going to provide as many tips and advice because this is my first game ever on. I'm playing with other players. Some of them are mixed with bots and some of them are actual players because of the play test of we were just getting started. Have really had myself a great time. I dropped 4,000 damage my first game ever. I'm very much lost. What I find really interesting is how much the game actually holds your hand and tells you the things that you need to do. Also the fact when you walk over stuff, it actually can auto pick things up. Some real big tips, because you saw my screen size earlier, is to drop your sensitivity as fast as humanly possible. You want to drop your sensitivity because the aim assist is really strong on mobile and really impressive. So I'm a little bit confused here. On my other footage, I have a first-person POV. This is a third-person POV. I actually really enjoy the fact that there's so many robust features, and so I'm going to cut while you see me absolutely lost in the sauce, confused on what to do, is they actually have a TDM mode that's also really great for improving and practicing. And also I noticed that there's all these hints. I noticed this later. You see it shows footsteps as well as gun indicators. I found that Bloodhound for starters was really strong, and this is where I learned that aim assist was crazy. The aim assist is absolutely insane. I actually decided to finish everyone. I was very low on resources. Another tip I could provide is make sure to drop fragment. Drop hot. Don't be afraid. Just get into it. So you see the little marker that was right next to that had like the icon where you saw like a death symbol? That was really huge because that's how you get into the box. Also, your inventory is on the bottom left of how you get into the bag. It seems like it's very overwhelming at first. I know that it can kind of feel that way, but trust me, take a breather and really kind of ease into this rather than panicking. A lot of other players are still trying to figure it out and learn as well, and it can be really scary, but they have such an amazing test range. So while I'm not going to share some of this footage right here, this is just me completely messing up. Actually, I had a really nice spray there. Now let's cut next. I don't die here, don't worry. This is the full gameplay. The test range is extremely robust. The way they teach the game is probably one of the best ways that I've ever had a mobile game taught to me, to the point where I actually enjoyed what I was playing. Like, again, I know this is a sponsored video, but I don't normally like mobile games, and this was just really impressive. It felt really smooth. I was impressed by the frame rate. I am not a type of person who goes all out with their phone, which is why my phone is absolute, lack for a better word, trash. It's really bad. It's quite embarrassing. Some tips also in terms of Bloodhound. Look at that snap. It's just the aim assist is so strong. You can also be sure to switch your items. Your health items are on the bottom right there, right where you see my name. You can reload. You can go to your inventory. Actually, when I did this playthrough, my first gameplay here, I actually had no idea what I was doing in terms of... Let's see if I think I decided to run. Backing up is not a bad thing. A lot of people get really confused, and you'll see the gameplay with Fade. In terms of slide jumping, I actually still had really no idea what I was doing. But everyone is kind of within this general vicinity. And again, reminder, some of them are bots and some of them are actual players. Some people I'm running into is probably their first time in mobile as well. I know the playtest that we had, I mean, a lot of people are claiming it was their first mobile game ever, and it's understandable. Your legend abilities, I really felt the strength of Bloodhound specifically here. I just pretty much have to run. I have no idea what I'm doing here. So let's jump cut to the next fight until I figure out where I get my resources. Oh, also another tip here is that the doors auto open by themselves. So that was a big mistake I made early on. You can change all of this. A lot of this functionality, you can go into the settings and change yourself to cater the experience. Whether you want to adjust the sensitivity, what do you want to happen when you go near a zip line? Do you want to auto pick up loot? What do you want to There's so much that is customized to cater to the experience. They're really blown away, and the team that worked on this should be extremely proud of just how intuitive that it is. I was blown away. So let's jump cut real quick. Okay, so I decided to come back, and I actually got bamboozled. Mirage is actually quite effective here. I did get bamboozled, but I did manage to find some loot. I'm actually sticking with the RE45. I found that the higher magnifications was a struggle for my screen specifically, so if you have a larger phone, kind of adjust accordingly, depending on the size of your screen for your sensitivity, but I do recommend dropping it. It definitely felt a lot smoother, but I did have instances where I ran out of screen real estate. The RE45, anything around like a 1 or 2x, when I started going around the territory with 3x, unless I was sniping, was definitely a struggle. There are also settings that you could run through that you can utilize as well. So everyone really kind of gets overwhelmed and runs on top of each other, and I can tell a lot of people are very keen on running away. And again, a mix of bots and people. I'm honestly, the way I play, I look like a bot myself. But I can tell that there's going to be people who really get good at this, like really, really get good. And so other tips on how you kind of maximize on that overall damage, and this is third person, so that, you know, just like Fortnite or anything else, using your geometry and using those peaks is also going to be very, very helpful. And luckily we get this knock here, and so I'm really low. But because everyone takes a second in terms of mobility, I find it really efficient just to kind of go for the finishers. The problem, the reason why I don't use my ammo, and what makes it really difficult, is trying to knock somebody when they have their knockdown shield up. I find that really hard to kind of get an angle on them and move around. So this race decides to run up right here, and I'm pretty much out of everything. And I think at this point I run away. I'm pretty sure, like, I have like nothing in my inventory, but I do try to pick up what I can. This took me a second. Everything around interaction is going to be on that upper right where you see up there, where you can pick up. It's very much of the similar spot as when you're looting a death box. So just big tips to provide as much as possible. But even when you're out, this is actually where I use a nade. And this is where I have other Fade gameplay, so I definitely recommend checking out. Huge damage by the nade. Because players aren't really great at moving, they definitely kind of stagger within an area. And you can tell, like, my gosh, everyone is just running here. I pretty much stay here the whole entire time. So capitalize on the fact that people's mobility isn't strong yet, but it definitely can be. You can wall bounce, you can bunny hop even. It takes a lot of practice to do so, but you can do it. I think I definitely need a lot more time and practice. And you'll see even with the 2x, it's really, really strong, but your screen real estate is very important, like I highlighted early on in the video as well. But it's just that aim assist is really, really strong on mobile. And if another question that people may have, is this going to be cross-platform? No, mobile is its own separate title and its own separate game. I know they're very big on highlighting about that, and it very much shows based on the diversity they have in terms of game modes and all the details that they have from TDM having. What you see here is like Old World's Edge. They're bringing back King's Canyon. They have their own roadmap. They have their own legends. I think this team has definitely made a statement by saying this game is a standalone game, and it's highly impressive on what they're bringing together. On the right, there's a few icons. There's one where you'll notice the ADS when you're in third person. There's one that you can hip fire as well. So one is a jump. It's very easy to pretty much auto sprint. So also some other tips to kind of employ for you. I found that the single tap weapons, there's a way you can toggle it, whether it shoots immediately when you shoot in, or it can shoot whenever you hold and then whenever you let go. So climbing was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be also in this game. Just trust the process. Go into the test area and really, really practice. Now, see how this knockdown shield really blocks a good portion, which makes it almost impossible to chase somebody and like finish them, so you kind of have to do a normal finisher. It's a lot more effective. If anybody has any other tips or advice, please leave them down in the comment section down below. My looting is pretty atrocious. Right now you see the auto pickup. I prefer auto pickup until I figure out what I'm doing. Just some tips. So let's skip ahead into my next fight. So we went back in the action. I got myself an R99. I have a PK as well. And you'll notice that it's a lot easier to track than you realize. And I know my screen is a little cut off, and as I record this is one of my first times ever recording on phone. So if you do like this content, let me know. I definitely need to do even more research to kind of highlight how to improve. At the very end, I'll showcase the stats that we did get a 4K and we got a lot of damage. And this was definitely a learning experience for me. I'm just glad that I managed to at least figure out kind of competently what I was doing. And that's, for me, that was a huge win. So I think this is the reason I'm showcasing this gameplay, is that everyone starts off as a new player, right? No matter how experienced you are. And yeah, there's some moments where I'm like, ooh, that's a good moment, but there's definitely moments that are quite embarrassing as well. So I hear res. So I hear the res here. Even though you are in a 2v1, always make sure you're strafing left and right. Use geometry. So even though I'm mobile and I'm a little bit clueless, I'm still trying to use as much geometry as possible, aka like walls and angles. And I decide to pretty much run. So I'm running, and the reason why I'm doing is because I know that, you know, whether they're bots or people, they're also trying to figure out their overall controls. Capitalize on that. Remember that the first games that you launch into are going to be much easier, and you should do this. I think this is probably the best possible way to get your 4K as well as really improving the game. If you got some good game sense, trust me, it's going to pay off in the long run by doing this. So definitely capitalize and enjoy that process and just drop hot. The PK is definitely beneficial. You see, once I let go, and this is the hard part I was trying to like figure out, you kind of have to, when you let go of the ADS, because whenever you aim, it automatically ADSs you down sights, especially in third person, which I was really struggling with for a second until I figured it out, and then I was like, okay, I think I got it. And once I figured it out, I was pretty much ready to rock and good to go. One thing you'll see are the indicators. This is definitely for a mobile thing specifically. I don't feel like it necessarily takes away from Bloodhound, because those scans that Bloodhound that they bring to the table are extremely effective. You can change sights at the bottom there that you see. I definitely just stick with the 2x because I felt really confident with it overall though. Alright, we ran up on a team that was deciding to fight, so patience is also key, but also hugging the angles here just to make sure you land your shots. So the problem why I keep ADSing out is I did drop my sensitivity a little too low, but let me tell you, whenever it is dropped low and be able to track, it just feels so strong and so good. In terms of like your accuracy, you see right there, that's the damage that you're seeing. It's so consistent, and I just love the way it feels overall. So here as well, it's a little hard to do the crouch spam, but I guarantee as you practice it, you'll be able to kind of mix in. I had my fingers specifically hovering over as I played, just to kind of get used to what I was doing specifically. But there is a lot of indicators that teach you the strengths and weaknesses of the game. So what I decided to do here, this is probably the only moment that I experienced lag from what you saw there. Overall, I guarantee you'd probably agree with me, but overall those settings and performance, you can lower the graphic settings as well, and because I'm recording, it definitely made the phone feel a lot warmer. Some thoughts as well, I think about every round I probably dropped around anywhere from 15 to 20%, and each round lasted about, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes total. So the battery power, especially even on a phone that was as old as mine, definitely was able to hold a candle and hold some weight. So I'm pretty sure if you were able to use, because I'm definitely playing on the lower end of hardware, and record and do the stuff I'm doing here, you're going to have a fantastic time in the game. I think that is extremely well optimized for iOS. So anybody who's using any sort of iOS platform definitely felt that was a strength to that overall. Frame rate was solid. I think that's better to drop hot, because this is pretty much where all the action is. No reason to kind of branch out. This is pretty much the last team here, and I take my time and wait patiently. And I wish I saw the counter in the upper right, but it looks like my recording just unfortunately kind of cut it off just a little bit. Did a lot of great entry damage here. And just like me, this is pretty much what I was doing earlier, how this person was running away. And I noticed there's some hitching here. I just want to highlight that my phone was getting really, really warm. So in between rounds, what I did, I removed my casing. I like a case, and it definitely causes your phones to kind of, you got to make sure they can breathe a little bit. So that's another tip I can provide to you, especially whenever you have those cases that cause the phone to not be able to breathe as much. Because I did that later, remove the casing, and then everything was much better. I just knew that whenever it was overheating, you could kind of feel it with your fingers, and when the screen gets a little warm, it also makes it a little harder to kind of hit buttons. This is my own personal thing, and this is because of my lack of experience on mobile games specifically. So what I did here is I popped my ultimate. The reason why, usually my best advice is to pop your ultimate once you've done damage, but because I really didn't know what was going on, I used my ultimate for information, just to be able to figure out where the enemy was. And so right now I'm trying to figure out if one of these is a real Mirage or a fake Mirage. So I'm going to jump cut to figure out once I managed to figure out which one it was. So I had height here, had a pretty good strong position. I decided to play this height because they're all fighting down below. I got the scans. I see the team that's located right down below. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of got the first time jitters of winning a battle royale, I guess, because it felt so new playing a mobile game specifically. Maybe you guys can tell me if I'm wrong based on what you see in terms of gameplay, but I cannot express just how impressed I was with what I saw, and my gosh, that beam. Could you imagine mobile on somebody who's actually strong on mobile, able to abuse that aim assist? That aim assist is absolute wild. And also when you're tracking with your finger, there's obviously going to be a little bit more dexterity than using even a controller. That it's an interesting balancing act overall. So I believe this is going to be the last squad, and when we get to the very end here, don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know if you want to see more of this. I'm going to have a fade gameplay where I'm going to analyze the first-person POV, I actually felt a lot more aware using third person. My other tip would be use third person first, just to get your bearings in terms of movement and control, and also see when enemies are running up on you. That'd be my biggest advice. I know this was a mix of players and also bots, because I don't think we had enough to fill out a complete server. So some of these players you can tell were bots and some of them were actually players, but nonetheless it was very, very enjoyable. And the bots were, it gave a very kind of, I wish that the main game had this, especially for new players that joined in. I would not want it to happen above, let's say, level 10, but having for players that are below a certain threshold play against bots, it really would help get players accustomed to like the process of how the game works. It's just so interesting how well fleshed out this game is, and providing tips to making sure players feel extremely comfortable to learning the game as a whole. So once I got this elimination, I kept running forward and running past just to find cover, and hoping the lifeline that was left would make a mistake. And they just kept backing up. Just make sure to kind of push. There's no harm in pushing. So I kind of made this mistake here, to be honest. I just scanned, but the lifeline could have just went around the corner immediately, which they did right here. And I almost got eliminated here, potentially, but then the aim assist right there kicked in, and there's the elimination. So let's review the amount of eliminations that I got at the end here. First game on ever, I highlighted at the very start, 4,000 damage. I think I got 13 or 14 eliminations. I was completely lost in the sauce. Overall, it loads very well, and this is a very populated area. There were a lot of opponents on screen. Very impressive in terms of frame rate. Once it got hot, like I let you know, in terms of the screen, is when I started seeing hitching. 15 kills, 4,300 damage. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Be sure to check out the Fade video, and look forward to hearing your thoughts on Apex Legends Mobile.